Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TechRaptor Game of the Year Awards Show, Part 1, where we're going to be talking about our indie games of the year. We're going to award, by the end of this little video, this podcast, however you're listening to it, you're going to know TechRaptor.net's Best Indie Game of the Year. I'm Robert Scarpanito, your features editor.
And Rotten, editor-in-chief.
Rutledge Doggett, site founder.
Andrew Stretch, the out-of-practice editor.
Austin Souther, staff writer.
Don Parsons, staff writer.
Yeah, and this is our little council. We're going to determine the greatest indie game of 2020. Objectively. I mean, you might have seen other awards out there.
But none of them, they're all meaningless.
Yeah, you might have learned about opinion and fact in school. This is fact.
That's right.
Those
This is the only one that spent an hour discussing what is an indie game before we had this chat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is objectivity at its finest here, folks.
Exactly. So what we're going to do with this, because we know there's been a lot of games in 2023 in general. When we were putting together the list we're going to talk about, we found that there were a lot of games that only a few of us have played that, some of us feel personally really strongly about. So we're going to kick things off with a quick honorable mentions list, where everyone can just kind of go through and, put out a game out there where we know it's probably not going to get discussed in the big group dynamic, but it's still a game that we each want to highlight. So I can throw things over to Otten first if you want to let us know what game you like.
Kick us off with my honorable mention. Of the 13,000 games released on Steam or something this year, whatever that number was, they just said something insane.
14,500.
There you go. Thank you. This is one I actually have talked about on the podcast for forever ago, a long time ago. It's called The Last Spell. It was in early access for a while. It did get its 1.0 release earlier this year in March. But it's this really cool roguelike or roguey-wogie. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh yeah,
I used the correct term. That is about building a town and then defending it from a wave of monsters, essentially. Which is not all that new, but what's really cool about it is that you have these heroes that get gear and whatnot, but the combat is a tactical RPG with grid-based stuff. So you're just doing that on the fly. And abilities are tied to the weapons you use, not necessarily a class system. So you could what someone has can change quite dramatically. And obviously you can have defenses of towers that shoot stuff and whatnot. But it's quite complex game. That every night when you're defending it has a great one more run feel. Because one run technically is many nights, so how long you survive, but just doing one night is pretty short and a good time. It's a great game if you like tactical stuff. But I would suggest checking out The Last Spell.
The Last Spell. You can buy that
Spell
on Steam. Yeah.
Well, that's where I've been playing. I don't know where else it is.
Fair.
I think it is
on
just
Nintendo
PC.
Switch.
Is it on the Switch? Sweet. It'd be a good game on the Switch. I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like the perfect Steam Deck Switch kind of game.
Oh yeah, it's great because with just turn-based stuff in general, it just works really well for that. And it's great. It's a tough game too.
Nice. Rhett, what's your honorable mention in the indie games list?
Mine is a super indie. It really flew under the radar. I think
all of ours are not indie at all.
No, I'm saying I think at most there were 4 people playing this at a time. So it's super small, single developer, kind of a tight experience, maybe about 12 hours to beat. But the premise is basically you are an explorer who is kind of digging deeper and deeper. There's 4 layers.
What's this called?
Caves,
what's the name of the game?
Geodepths.
There you go.
And so you're basically just kind of boring towards the center of the earth for the most part, collecting resources, upgrading your base so that you can.
That's not a very good. That's not a very good endorsement of the game if you're calling it boring.
Yeah.
Man, two people went for the low hanging fruit here.
I guess it is.
Well, that was a real banal joke.
Going all the way back to episode 1. Wow. But it's you're running into caves and kind of finding or unraveling this like mystery of the deeper you dive, the more kind of, I don't know, dark it gets. And then uh, it's not a super complex game. It's kind of just farm ores, build up your base, farm biofuel, stuff like that. And then um, there's kind of a puzzle at the end with multi choice that stumped me for about 5 hours. Um, but it's a nice chill experience. There's no combat or anything like that. You're just kind of digging deeper and deeper, finding these caves, finding little collectibles. There are pads littered throughout the game that kind of tell this story. There was like 30 something, and each one kind of has a little bit more tidbits to what's going on, all the way until you get to the very last cave in the game. But it's a fun little experience. It's not a super expensive game. So if you kind of like that type of experience of gradually getting stronger and doing more, it's definitely worth your time.
That definitely seems like your kind of vibe. I feel like a lot of the games you brought to the podcast in the past year have been very like kind of chill, like resource gathering.
He's probably playing an idle game as we speak.
Actually, no.
What?
Surprisingly.
New year, new rut.
Whoa.
If you look at my Steam year in review, the top 3 are idle games. So,
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, that idle games lend themselves to that high play time.
Yeah.
That's true. It's true.
You're
Stretch,
doing it wrong.
Stretch, what's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention is going to be Ravenlock by Coco Cucumber. This was kind of the third game in their pixel voxel art style. They did a really good job of translating voxel characters, or like what you would imagine like a 32-bit character, into a 3D character, but still really retaining that pixel look. But Ravenlock was a lot of fun, just a cute little adventure. I sat down and I cleared the whole thing in one sitting. It was only like a 4 or 5 hour experience.
Oh, nice. I love games that are like that.
Yeah, it was a really tight narrative experience. There was a lot of like the main quest was a fetch quest, but a pretty complicated one that you go over here and you start to like you get component A and B, but component C is over here, and then that lets you get to a new place, which lets you get a component so you can come back to a place you were at earlier to open a door to then like unlock and keep moving out. Combat was very easy to break. It really was not the focus of the game, but it's just a fun little adventure. I really dug Coco Cucumber's stuff, this and their previous game, which I'm totally blanking on, which was a cool kind of
Echo Generations.
Echo Generation, that's it. They've absolutely nailed it with those two games, but Ravenlock was just such a fun game to sit down, get through the entirety of, and just a fun little story. I feel like you don't get that as much in games.
Fair. Hell yeah. Austin, what's your honorable mention of the year?
My honorable mention is probably one of the more well-known games on the list, Slay the Princess, which I only started recently playing, like, I don't know, a week ago. So that's it.
I'm just kidding. And if you're not watching the video, I just put up a little thing that said, please wrap it up, because, if you watch the Keeleys, it's a fun little thing. But tell us more about Slay the Princess.
Yeah, so it's an interesting game to talk about because it's one that you don't really want to like give away too much information. It's almost best going blind, but if I had to describe it, it's a visual novel, obviously, which is not something I usually go for. But every choice matters greatly, and the choices that you make your path diverge in ways that you wouldn't really expect. It gets very meta as well. There's a lot of twists and turns you wouldn't expect, and of course, your ultimate goal is to, slay the princess. But it
we
just
talk about
does
slay like kill or slay like how the kids say slay these days.
No.
How do the kids stay flame?
I don't know. I'm not one of the kids. I'm trying to figure things out here.
He's only recently discovered Fortnite.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Fortnite, by the way?
I heard really where you want to be for the kids is Roblox.
Oh yeah.
This has devolved into chaos already.
Anyway.
But yeah, kill her, not and just clip that. Look, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but even if you don't like visual novels, I think it's something that you should consider if the premise seems even a little interesting to you, and you might just be surprised by what you find. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I hear it's one of those like it's not what it is on the tin kind of games.
Is it like
Yeah.
what's it? Doki Doki tricks you?
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, or like a Pony Island kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Don, what's your honorable mention?
So there's been a lot of games this year, but the one I'm going to talk about here is Cobalt Core, which is a roguelite. Road Evo-D is that they want to say rather than roguelite, which is the. But let's not get into that discussion. It's kind of Slay the Spire meets FTL, and that it's got a lot of the ideas and mechanics, card game mechanics from Slay the Spire. So you have a crew of 3 members, and you unlock new members as you go through, and the thematic is very FTL-esque, and you are traveling through 3 maps, much like Slay the Spire, and you build your deck and you face an enemy at the end. And you're trying to unlock the memories of the characters who are caught in this time loop that keeps going around. And you also unlock new ships, new crew members, and build on this story going around with these characters and these other people who are also caught in this time loop with you. And I would say that you probably, if you've played Slay the Spire, want to turn up difficulty options from normal after a run or 2. But other than that, it's an exceptional game that's gone sadly overlooked this year.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think that's one that I've seen, but it does sound. I mean, FTL plus Slay the Spire.
That's a great combo.
Yeah. Already 2 pretty high profile ideas, right?
I just want another FTL. Like that game is so good.
Yeah, it doesn't have the crew management stuff like FTL. It's more the thematic side of FTL.
Gotcha.
The gameplay loop is much more Slay the Spire.
I mean,
Lone Star is one that's got similar vibes coming out this month too.
Who asked?
Keep an eye.
Jeez.
Real. I just want to say I think this might be the only website where people feel comfortable just absolutely bodying the owner.
Who is the owner anyway?
Jeff Bezos.
Oh God, we got bought out.
Damn.
Oh, no wonder this place fucking sucks.
Yeah, we're there with the Washington Post.
My honorable mention, I'm bringing, of course, a rhythm game to this. Spin Rhythm XD. It was in early access since like 2018, but they officially launched this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute, I've heard of this.
Yeah,
ever go.
Yeah, but they officially like 1.0'd in 2023, and it is so like if you own a Steam Deck, buy this game. Like if you have a remote interest in rhythm games, it is like the perfect Steam Deck like game. And it feels in the same way like if you have a Steam Deck and you got that free Aperture Desk Job thing where it like feels really cool. Yeah, and it uses the hardware really well. I feel like Spin Rhythm also uses that hardware well. Like the touchpad just feels so perfect for it because you're basically like spinning a dial and there are 2 colors on it. So you're just matching the colors to the beat and the rhythm. You can like click it in. There's like a kick that you can do. So it's like mechanically simple at first, but like you just got to wrap your head around like the radial energy of it instead of like most people are probably familiar with like notes coming down like a Guitar Hero or Rock Band kind of a thing, right? A little more like X and Y axes. But it's great if you like electronic music. There's a lot of electronic music on there, and then there's a decent modding community as well. So if you're into like pop music or any like popular, like I've seen a lot of metal tracks on the modding scene too. Like there's probably some music you could like get into. And it's just a unique take on rhythm games that I haven't seen in a long time because there's so many different ones that do it. But Spin Rhythm XD is very, very cool, and I think it's on Switch now as well, if you wanna check it out there. But
Nice.
yeah. But I think that's all of our honorable mentions out of the way, and now we will talk about capital T, capital L, the list of indie
The
games for this.
definitive list, by the
Yeah,
way.
True.
the factually objective definitive list. I'm just gonna go through them, and then we'll just to like rattle them off, so that way the listeners can know what we're going to be talking about, and then we will go through each one and talk about why they made it onto this list. So we have Dredge, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Turbo Overkill, Venba, World of Horror, Terra Nil, and Cavern of Dreams. Those are our kind of the what we're going to be talking about for this episode. Rhett, I think you are probably the biggest proponent of Dredge. I remember you like were just going off about this game when it came out and just talking a lot about it. So why don't you tell us why Dredge is on this list?
I played Dredge during, I think it was Next Fest in like late 2022, and was really intrigued kind of by the concept and the really simple gameplay. And then it came out. I think it flew under the radar for the first week or two, and then really started picking up. But I had already dumped about 80 hours into it, beaten the game 3 times. It In the same vein of everything else I'm playing, it's got these chill vibes with a little bit of a kind of Lovecraftian undertone, um, where you are a fisherman who just kind of washed up on shore for the most part, and you get Tom Nooked a little in the start, where they give you a boat and you're like, you gotta go get some fish and pay
You
this
get
debt off.
capitalism.
Yeah, a
Just
little bit
made
of
Tom Nook a verb. I
yeah,
like it.
got Tom Nooked. And then you're basically just uncovering this mystery of these different artifacts and um, like what happened to you previously. And so there's a little bit of a mystery. There's not a whole lot of hand holding in the game for like narratively or to tell you where to go. A lot of it is kind of context clues and hints. So there's enough of kind of puzzle elements to keep you intrigued and wondering. And then a pretty big kind of list of different fish you can catch. So if you're looking to kind of catch them all literally, there's a lot of option there. And the day night cycle, the type of nets, the type of kind of fishing rods and things like that really matter. But it was just one that I liked exploring, kind of putzing around in a little bit of boat, in a little boat. And it was just a really good experience. Like if you want to beat it, it's maybe 15 hours. If you just kind of blaze through 20 to find all the different secrets, unlock everything, and then they released a DLC
Expansion, right?
a couple weeks ago that was pretty good too. About a 3-4 hour experience. So it was just a really good. It Everything it did was not incredibly complex, but it did everything very well. I think was
Mhm.
really kind of the thing for me. There was nothing where I was like, oh, I was disappointed by this. It was all just really well designed, well thought out, and just really enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I played. I haven't finished Dredge, but I played quite a lot of it. I got to like I think there's 4 major
Or
islands to go to. I'm on the way to the fourth is where I'm at, but I feel like I've got a good grasp of it, and it's definitely a vibes game. I can't name a single character, but there's so many characters that you talk to, but they're all like named like Mayor, Starving Man, Old Man, like that
yep,
kind of a thing. But it's so Lovecraftian. It's so very like people don't remember shit and you don't know why, you know? Um, and there's definitely it feels like there's some mystery in this game. Not in like a detective-y like solve the murder case mystery, but like you're uncovering the secrets of this world that plays by different rules than you would think. Um, so it is very neat, very vibey, very like honestly pretty good for Halloween times. I think it's like a very good like spooky but not scary kind of game.
yeah. There's not. It's like it's got that undercurrent of horror, but it's not like you know jump scares and stuff like that. It's kind of just like the main mechanic is if you're out after dark, your kind of fear gradually goes up, and the higher it goes, the more more weird shit you see.
Yeah.
It's a
Typical day in
thinking man's
Indiana.
horror.
Yeah, basically.
But I mean, the kind of things are like, so you want your ship to go faster so you can cover more distance, right? But when it's nighttime, one of the things that can trigger is like suddenly a little rock appears in like an island or something appears in front of you. And it kind of feels like pop in, but it's like intentional, right? Where it's like you can't see that far ahead, but then it just like appears in front of you. So if you're going too fast at nighttime, you might just like run into it and
Oh man,
like hurt
Yeah,
your
When you
on-
can
hull.
kind
on
of see like
Golden
boats
Pond,
off in
man.
the distance, like the little the same ship that you're in off in the distance, you can see the lights. But once you get close enough, it's actually like a monstrous fish.
Yep.
So you can
Um,
act your own Titanic experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's like you hear foghorns in the distance, and it's like, why? Who's calling me?
Oh man.
Go towards it. That's
Yeah.
everything I've learned. If I know about Lovecraft, you go towards the oddity.
Yes, that is true.
Nothing bad ever
What's the
happened
worst that
doing
can
that.
happen?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing
I mean,
bad
you
has
won't
ever
you
happened.
won't remember anything anymore.
It's true.
No, it I guess it would capture that Lovecraft feel because like all the characters in the Lovecraft stories are always like they know they shouldn't look into the darkness, I guess. They know they shouldn't explore further, but their curiosity gets the best of them. And they just do it and it turns out bad, but it makes for a good story, you know.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's kind of what this like kind of nails the vibe of this game. Is there's a lot of things you can be curious about, and if you fuck around, you'll find out. You know.
Yeah.
Is that the subtitle for Dredge?
Yes,
Dredge.
Dredge. Fuck around and find
Fuck
out.
around and
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah, the
Basically
new DLC
anything
is called The
Lovecraftian.
Pale Reaches, and it released earlier this month.
The Pale
And I
Reach.
think
Yeah.
the game also got a crossover in Dave the Diver in
Mhm.
December as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, was it that Dredge got the Dave the Diver DLC or Dave the Diver got the Dredge DLC?
Dave
Dave
the Diver added a
got
free.
Dredge as an update. Got Dredge
Okay.
related content there.
Yeah.
Which I
Next on our-
appreciate in two separate games that you basically live on about.
Yeah.
No,
Next
Dave
on
the
our
Diver
list
isn't
is Cocoon. It's a little puzzle game that I think kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think any of us were really expecting it, right? Like throughout the year, and then there was a lot of buzz about it. So I played it. I know Andrew, you've played it as well, and
Yes.
Correct.
it is this perfect this perfect blend of like I think the way I've been putting it is that you feel really brilliant for figuring it out, but also stupid for not figuring it out sooner. It's like it rides that line, you know?
A little bit.
Yeah. Because the mechanic is essentially like you carry worlds, like you carry these little orbs that are worlds, and you can place those orbs in pedestals to go into them, and then there are more puzzles inside, and it kind of becomes like a layered worlds and worlds experience essentially. So there's a lot of rules that wouldn't make sense at first, but as you play the game, it's like, oh, duh, of course, that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
It's all about figuring out those rules, figuring out how to play with them, and how to basically get to the end of this and play with. I think it's like 4 worlds total, or 4 orbs, 4 colors, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of like really neat puzzle mechanics that are just like it's like you can get in a flow state and you just want to do one after the other after the other after the other and just keep going. And there's like no
It does
good
that-
stopping point.
It does that really good thing of introducing like an element of gameplay to you and then slightly iterating and then slightly iterating, then introducing a new mechanic, iterating on that, and then bringing back in the first mechanic to the point where you're having to juggle going in and out of like the spaceship world with one of the orbs to then move something a certain way to then leave and move something and hop back in, and it's just the way that you can operate and keep all of these levels in check is really a blast.
It's great. I want to call out. I just want to quote one thing from Scrappy reviewed it because I think it sums up Cocoon pretty well. Of how of exactly what you're getting at. It can seem complex on paper. Quote. It can seem complex on paper, but by the time you get to the final act, you'll be like a savant speaking a language that you only understand in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's exactly because if I were to like if you knew nothing about the game and I just pointed to somewhere later in the game and was explaining what was going on, you'd be like, "This sounds crazy." And you're like, "It's actually not that bad." Like, because when you go, it's so good at layering and iterating on itself, like slowly, bit by bit by bit, that at the end of it, it's like you are like, there's a lot going on here. I'm just fuck it, I'll try it. And, like, I think it should work. I don't know.
Because there's also like no real dialogue or anything in the game.
No
There's no
signposting at all.
text boxes. It's just like, hey, interact with this thing, and you just kind of got to learn that that's how that thing works.
Yeah, and it's great at that.
Yeah, and there's so many like, well, there's one in particular, like a moment where I was like, oh my, like mind blown of like you can do that in this game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and
towards
it's
the end.
It's maybe like the beginning of the third act ish. I don't know if we want to like spoil things in this.
This game, I don't think we could. Yeah, I wouldn't want to spoil it. I think I know what you're getting at. I wouldn't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
How would you compare it to Inside and Limbo?
Those
Very
are
Previous
different
games by the developer.
Very different, but I would say the design philosophy is not all that different, and it's same design, same lead designer. Because I reviewed Inside, and I think that's how I was. Because I played it first, I'm pretty sure. And I told Scrappy, I was like, "Oh, dude, Cocoon is fucking rad." It's same director, and Inside was very good at that too. And I wrote that in my review of it. I said it's like a, if I were someone, and obviously I'm not a game developer, so I don't know fucking anything. So this might sound so stupid to them, but it'd be something that I would not want to point towards someone. Be like, look, this is a good template of like how to introduce stuff to players. Not saying it's the perfect way or the only way, but if I wanted to understand the meaning and why that's important to do it in a specific way or a certain way, Inside and Cocoon have a very similar philosophy of showing you something and very slowly layering it upon itself and doing it, spreading that out to have multiple mechanics, doing it at the same time, and then having them meet at some point. I mean, in reality, that's kind of how all games work, but it is so clear to see in Inside and Cocoon, and so like intentionally there, like it's a very easy equation to see play out in front of you. I'm sure when you're developing it, it's like anything that seems simple to consume was actually probably really, really fucking hard to put together.
Yeah.
To make something that comes across as simple is super hard. And it does it beautifully. All of his game, and Cocoon, I think, is by far the biggest accomplished one at doing that, because it's the bigger game. It's just got a lot more going on.
Yeah. It's very, very layered. And so much
fun. The puzzles are so satisfying. It's just so satisfying to figure out, because it is really you just going through the motions. Like, it's a weird puzzle game in that it's like there are some times where you're really having to like logic your way through something, but not a lot. You're mostly just like, oh, I could do that now. Let me give it a shot, or something. Like once you figure out the thing, it's not much. You don't have to do. You're not gonna be stuck. Let's put it that way. It's not a game you're gonna get stuck on.
Yeah, because you can't backtrack too much either for the most part.
No.
So you can't be like, oh, did I miss something like 2 hours ago or whatever? You don't have to worry about that. Like everything you need is right in front of you usually.
Yeah.
We've got Sea of Stars next. Otten, I think that. You want to chat on this one?
Sea of Stars. This is made by the people that did the Messenger.
The Messenger.
Right?
Messenger, yeah.
It's a big game. I didn't realize that. So to describe real quick, it's a our turn-based RPG that is very much inspired by like early JRPG games, not to get that discourse going, but the early like Final Fantasies and stuff like that. Very much that kind of vibe. But brought up, it's got a lot of modern conveniences that make it a little more enjoyable. Because if you go back and try to play an early Final Fantasy now, you're like, God, just shoot me. Sometimes with some of the annoying things going on mechanically. But so it does a lot of that, fixes a lot of that kind of stuff. But it's just a nice little charming story with characters that I would say are not quite as, they don't grow on you as much as maybe some of those classics that we like. The writing is probably one of its weaker things. The world is cool, is fantastic, and just got a lot of creativity going on with it. Because you're playing these I forgot what they're called. Oh, the Solstice Warriors. So one of you is the sun. You have two of them. One's for the sun. One's for the moon, the lunar, solar. They have lunar, solar powers, and they have to take on these ancient evils of the world that have been locked away and are threatening the world again. And there's a lot more going on than that, but I'm 40 or 50 hours into it, and I'm still not done.
Oh my god, that long?
It's a big game.
It's pretty long.
Whoa.
Once I realized that, I was like, "Fucking A." Like, but I mean, like I say, it's inspired by those little games that are the longest shit. But what's really great about it is, one, it's beautiful. I think it's got some of the best looking pixel art in the game that we've seen in a while, like great animations to go along with it. And it does smart stuff with combat, because turn-based stuff can get pretty stale. Like, since we've seen it so long now, it goes with the interactive route where timing attacks gives you a little bonus that you could then use to power up an attack later. You have different abilities that are timed differently or want you to do something like holding a button in and then timing the release of it. It's like a bunch of different things like that. And you have a party of characters that then get abilities that combo with one another and stuff like that. Like it gets pretty complex, and you have your equipments and stuff to juggle too, and there's food to gather and to cook instead of buying potions and stuff. And it's a big game. It's a meaty game. But it scratches that itch of if you're looking for so the last game that made me feel that I enjoyed this was Dragon Quest 11, where that just felt very classic RPG, just wholesome food to go through. This is the same vibe, same thing. Combat's enjoyable. I do like the world. I like going around the world. It's good stuff.
Nice.
It's great little turn-based. I should say little because it takes it's forever.
There are no little turn-based JRPGs.
No.
Yeah. I'll add on to that too with the combat. One thing that I really liked was the way that a whole bunch of enemies would set up for ultimate attacks.
Yes, I forgot about that.
They'd sit back and charge, but above their head would be slots representing different damage types. So then it kind of it really adds an element of strategy as you've got to look okay, I need to do 2 moon powered attacks and 1 bludgeoning attack to knock this enemy out of their charging state. That adds a fun quick you can be totally having a great time, totally in charge of everything, totally beating everything up, and then you've got to pause and be okay, in 2 turns, how can I manage to stop all of this from potentially happening?
Right. Yeah, because you could have certain abilities that says this is a fire and a slashing kind of attack, or whatever that could get you 2 things at once. But yeah, that stuff's great, and the boss fights in it are really inventive.
Mm-hmm.
They're super fun. They have a lot of their own unique mechanics you're probably not going to see anywhere else in the game, because they kind of go all out in making them look a certain way and have thematic stuff going on with them. And there's a lot of some characters there's a lot of unique animations. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of care put into how things look and certain abilities that you use. Same with the bosses. But the boss stuff is pretty great because it's not just here's an enemy that has just a shit ton of health. There's a lot going on a lot of times, stuff that you can interact with or do things with. They went about it really smartly.
Nice.
I think there was a lot of depth to the true ending too, from what Isaac was telling me too. There was a lot you
People
have to
were
do.
mad.
Yeah.
Oh, were they?
Mad.
Yeah, it's I guess there's one component of the true ending that's really hard and super based in RPG.
Huh.
I think that was that you've got to collect rainbow conch shells that are collectibles throughout the entire world. But you need to have all of them to get to the true ending.
That is some shit because oh boy, yeah.
One of them's based off of some sort of a game you have to play that has heavy RPG.
There is.
So
if it's based off that is fucked. That is just a random number.
True endings are more of a bonus in most of these types of games than it's not it's more of a bonus ending of sorts.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it's meant to be a reward for completionists. So when you think about it that way,
Don't bring that up.
it's like how in Suikoden you need to get all 108 stars if you want the perfect ending.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
does
it's
remind
very
me.
yeah.
No, go ahead. It just reminded me of a cool thing that they put in because this was a Kickstarter game, right? Am I
It
wrong?
was.
I think so.
Yep.
They have a really cool. God, I wish I could remember the name of it because I did go look at it once and I was like, "Oh, this is neat," but I have no reason to come back here, so I forgot the name of it. But they have this really big, like I don't know if it's like a shrine or temple or whatever, but like all the backers have like a statue of some kind that has their name, and like some of them have writing, and obviously the ones that paid more, they have a uniquely made statue that I'm guessing is some design that they gave to the developers. Because
It's a
some of them, it's like, it's right, it's crypt that has like, here's my dog, or here's me with a dog, or like they're all unique things, and there's like when you look at the floors, there's like 100 of them. So they put a ton. It's one of the cooler ways I've seen them like a game honor its backers in something.
That is
It's
pretty
pretty
cool.
rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge, and I just kept going. And I was like, do I find something eventually? No, it's just a big place for these to live.
Right.
That are pretty, and like some of them are like lore stuff. Like it'll say like this is a character or like something like that. Like it's pretty neat.
Backers who donated $45 got a gravestone as a solstice warrior. Those who did about 120 got a statue with the message "A hero to be remembered," and those who did just around 150 got a custom-made statue in the game with the message "A hero."
No
to
wonder
be
there's so many because that's kind of cheap for that.
Yeah, for
I
real.
was like, damn.
I think I might have a statue in it because I backed it.
You
I
backed it, right?
I can't remember how much I paid for.
Oh.
Fair. Yeah.
I hope you backed $1 less than getting a grave marker.
24
That's
bucks.
not enough.
That's fucked up to hope for.
What if we get in there and it's just randomly made? It's a little goblin guy. I must find this now. Let me go get it going. Let me start it.
Just do that
Find him.
while we're discussing the rest of these. Next on our list is Turbo Overkill. Austin, you reviewed that for our site. You reviewed all 3 episodes of early access.
Well, yeah, it was in early access for a couple of years, and it released a few episodes each time until the eventual release this year. So I had a lot of time to play it, and I saw it evolve and grow as it went on, and it just kind of got crazier and crazier. But Turbo Overkill is a FPS. I wouldn't say it's like a boomer shooter, but it's kind of got this retro feel to it. It's very fast-paced, high octane action. You have a chainsaw on your leg.
All good games have that.
Yeah,
that's
there are only a
check
few good games that have it.
Good game.
Yeah.
Just auto good game.
I mean, it's awesome. Also, you can eventually add another chainsaw to your leg. So, like, I mean, what's
great
put in
game.
that? And you slide around and like ram enemies with your leg, and you can like the blood will heal you and stuff. It's just nuts. There's like a ton of different cool weapons. Each one is unique. But the action is fantastic. The world is also really cool. It's got this cool vaporwave aesthetic to the city that you're in, and I think like I don't know. I played a lot of games with like that try to emulate that vaporwave look, and some of them do it well. But something about Turbo Overkill and its city is just like it's freaking awesome. And that's just in episode 1. Episode 2 and episode 3 kind of have their own twists to it. There's like post-apocalyptic areas and like space areas. It just gets really crazy. And as you go on, you upgrade more, you get more unique abilities, so it keeps giving more as you play. And I played a lot of shooters this year, and it's probably my top shooter, just because of how crazy and awesome and fun it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't need to.
Since you can have 2 chainsaws or whatever as legs or something, I would hope it didn't take itself seriously.
Yeah.
No, it's
Well,
very yeah.
Oh, you're literally sliding around in like skate park areas in the first episode to just like take advantage of that chainsaw leg, and it's so cool how it does that.
Well,
That's
even
pretty good.
like the thing that really blew my mind about it is it takes momentum into consideration too. So you want to slide downhill. It's like Apex Legends, where like if you're going downhill, gravity helps you and you go faster. Which in this game means you ram through shit with your chainsaw faster.
Yeah.
So, which means more damage. Which is
Yeah.
like that's kind of cool because like on top of all that, like it's also a shooter, right? So like you've got like dual wielding SMGs or like a shotgun or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think they all have like alt fires too. Like the shotgun, I
Yep.
think does like grenade launcher as well, or something like that.
You
from
can.
what I remember.
There's like 2 different ways that you can upgrade them, and I think that kind of acts as like the alt fire. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of variation in the weapons, and in addition to all the abilities that you can get to augment yourself, and like you can augment like your arms, your legs, your chest. I think you like your head too. So
Nice.
you can just make yourself like a total monster.
Yeah, like it really lives up to its ridiculous name. Like think about the name for we're all writers here. Think about the name for a second. Turbo Overkill. What a stupid name, right? Like it's,
I guess
it's amazing.
it just feel it fits as a video game name. Is all. I'm like,
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
feels
It'd be if it was
very
called like
Video game ass
gamey.
name.
Turbo Overkill Rising.
Revengeance.
Yeah.
That's the
I'd be like,
sequel.
okay.
Turbo Overkill Rising.
Yeah.
Also worth noting that the main character's name is Johnny Turbo, which is like also stupid, but
That's great.
it's amazing.
But
the
also
best.
very video game.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, because they
He,
could have named this like Chainsaw Man or something, but that would not have.
I
worked.
mean, he's basically Chainsaw Man, and I think that's like the headline that I did, like become Chainsaw Man or something. He also shoots rockets out of his arms, and when the rockets go, he gives you the middle finger to like his enemies.
All of that would sound so stupid, but when you know
Does
the
sound
name of the
stupid.
game is Turbo Overkill, like of course it does. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Right?
This is what Duke Nukem Forever should have been.
Yeah.
Those morons. They fucked
He's
it.
going to have a cameo in the next season of Blood Dragon.
Yeah. That's actually good. This is like the spiritual succession of Blood Dragon you never knew you wanted. Is maybe like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way to kind of think of it. Yeah. Next on our list is Venba. Dawn, do you
Which
want
is
to?
a very different experience than
Yeah.
Turbo
A little
Overkill.
little bit different
Let-
here.
Give you a little bit of
gears.
whiplash real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while that's going all high octane super action, Vampa is a much more grounded game. It's a short narrative cooking type of game about the immigrant experience. It's about Indians who have immigrated to Canada, and it tells a lot of the story through food in cooking games. So you're putting together traditional different Indian foods there, sometimes with a bit of a twist, and you're learning about these people and their experiences over 7 chapters as they're here. It's not a very long game. I found out about it actually surprisingly late when it got listed on something for I was having to do one thing or another about, and I fell in love with it because it's got this heartwarming and wonderful story here to tell. It's not going for the bombast of it's like Hollywood, Bollywood, or anything like that. It's just these people on their daily lives and the experiences and the difficulties and joys of being a family and what that means when you're immigrating. Some things come up like the difficulty sometimes in using a degree from overseas in Canada, which is a actual problem in the country that comes up, and is something that I definitely recognize there as someone who lives here in Canada. And the game is a lot of heart in general, and a lot of moments about family and trying to figure out who you want to be as a family and where you want to be.
Yeah, because Tanushree too. I think she's back in India now, but she moved, like she studied like somewhere else that's not India, and then moved back. So I think there's also that personal connection that she had with the game
Yeah.
as well. And like I played this pretty recently as well, like about a week or so ago, because it's like a 2-hour experience, quick and
Yeah.
easy. But it hit me in like 2 different ways. One is like I grew up in a multicultural household, like Filipino American in South Korea, like there's just a lot of shit going on there, right? So I think from an immigrant perspective, there's there's some stories in there, moments in that game that I recognize, and I'm like, oh, that's stuff that I've done or I've seen people do because this Indian or Tamil, they're from Tamil, right? They moved to Canada and they have a kid who, you know, ethnically is Tamil, but because he goes to school in Canada, he wants to be cool. He wants to be normal. He wants to be white, right? Or at least like he doesn't want to bring his Indian lunch to school because that's weird. It's not normal. And it's like those sorts of things. Or if you know anyone who's an immigrant or you grew up as an immigrant, you'll kind of recognize those sorts of moments in life. And it's really interesting seeing it come through in a game, you know? And just like telling that story through food as well, which is such a universal experience. And it's something that it plays at the intersection of culture and heritage that I don't know. There's a lot of heart in this game. That's really nice, I think.
I really like the art style, too. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like a Pixar look almost to it, doesn't it?
Mm.
Which
Yeah, it looks really pretty in general, and it's very expressive, which really works with this sort of story they're going for, and the type of focus they have.
Yeah. Next on our list is World of Horror, which also has an interesting art style.
Another whiplash.
They have a
Another
very different
whiplash.
one.
Yeah. Stretch,
I
do you
mean,
want to tell us
Snip,
about
snap,
World of
snip,
Horror?
snap.
The indie scene is so great for horror stuff, for like little bite-sized horror adventures. World of Horror is like inspired by the old Japanese horror mangaka like Junji Ito and stuff, and it's just very off-putting. It kind of plays. It has roguelite elements in your each
Rogi
run you
Wogi.
start. Sorry, yes, rogi wogi
Rogi.
elements.
Thank you. Thank you for
Each
correcting
run
me.
you start, there's a new, old god trying to take over the town. And kind of as you progress and solve horror mysteries, the town gets more and more fucked up. But like everything is based on different stat rolls. So, you can have random encounters as you move from like this place to another place, or if you go into a conversation with a creepy old lady in the hallway of your school, you can do the same thing 100 times and you'll get some different results depending on whatever the behind the scenes role was for that. There's a lot on the front end between like learning about the old gods, learning about all the different mechanics that each of the weird creatures that you like run into, you can either fight and beat up, or you can kind of do a learning guessing game kind of thing that you do different like series of claps and bows, and then the game will tell you which were correct, which were incorrect, and you can kind of perform a ritual to get rid of the ghoul as they're trying to attack you. And then once you get done playing the game in like a standard format, then there's a whole bunch of different characters you can play as, and you can implement different rules and different expansions, and it just keeps building out. And of course, each run you do, each run you complete, more stuff will get added to the game. So it's also like, your run number 5 will have, there will be things in run 50 that in run 5 you wouldn't have been able to have gotten access to.
Right.
Like a very
progression.
off-putting game all around.
I think it was in early access for quite a while too, wasn't it? I could be wrong.
It was. It was one of those weird games that launched in the Xbox game preview program, even because I wrote a preview for it when it first hit PC, and that was not good because it kept crashing every 5 minutes. So it's in a much better state now. Really fun.
Nice. Yeah, because I remember I kept seeing it like I think it's one of those games that like showed up at every PAX too for like the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Like we saw it a lot there. I played it like for the first time a couple years ago, and I was like, this is a weird ass game. Like there's nothing quite like this one, right? Like, and it is very spooky, and I think it does a really good job with like if you see screenshots of this game, it looks like retro as fuck, right? Like it's very old school style, but you would think, how can it be that scary? It can't be that scary, but they kind of pull it off, I think.
It does the same kind of unsettling, like you're not going to have something jump scare you out of the dark, but you're not going to want to look in the dark because you're going to have no clue what's in there.
Yeah. Next on our list is Terra Nil. Rhett, I think you've played a lot of this one, right?
Yeah. It is what I think it's best described as like a reverse city builder, and I'm just gonna assume this. It's set 10 years from now when we've destroyed the Earth. And you're basically taking what are barren landscapes where, the water's not clean. There's nothing but dirt, and you are placing structures down to essentially rebuild the ecosystem. So you go from kind of just very brown, ugly landscapes, and you turn it into a lush paradise for the most part. There's a number of ways to do that. There's 4 different ecosystems to restore, each with its own kind of like sets of challenges that you can, if you get, for example, humidity and heat to a certain level, it starts raining, and that kind of accelerates your ability to restore the ecosystem. So you're placing all of these objects or buildings down that are transforming the landscape, and then at the end of it, your goal is to recycle all of that, leaving just nature behind. And it's a really chill experience. What I liked about it a lot too is that as part of it, you also restore the wildlife, and you have to figure out where the wildlife goes because there's certain criteria for them to live. Um, and if you get all of them or you place a bunch of them, once you launch your ship to, leave the Earth or whatever, you can appreciate the kind of map that you've built, and it'll zoom in on creatures kind of wandering around, and just kind of a really serene look at what you've built.
This
Yeah.
feels like the credits of Wally game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If anybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yep.
This is just a Wally sequel.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
we go. So you're Wally.
Yeah, but it's great. It's super easy to learn. Like, there's not any complex mechanics. It's really just kind of chill background music and some light nature.
Mhm.
So it's a really good kind of, maybe have a show on the other screen while you're playing it or something.
Yeah. Like when I played it, I really like that reverse aspect of it because at first I didn't quite understand what people saying, why people were saying reverse, because you're building a lot of these structures to revitalize the landscape, right? And then it got to that point, and it's like, okay, you've done it, you've revitalized it, and in my mind, I was like, that is completion. That is you've victory screen, you've won. And they're like, no, no, no. Now you need to like clean your shit. You need to get rid of your shit. And that's where it like hit me like, okay, you not only like while you're revitalizing the earth, you want to be thinking ahead and think, okay, like as I'm placing these structures, can I ensure I have a pathway to unplace these structures as I want to go back? Which, if you think, guys, I think this might be like an allegory for our experience here on Earth. I think.
Okay, we're getting a little too deep.
I do want to say one thing, because I interviewed the developers, I think earlier this year, in February, and like it might kind of sound doom and gloom at first, because the world is kind of fucked up, but the developer said it's important for us to show players a world to be hopeful for, and to avoid pushing them further into apathy or resignation. So like, if it's a game that sounds depressing to you, I don't think that's it. It's kind of the opposite, and it also brings some awareness to what we're doing, which is nice. Also, I think what I really liked is that they donate 8% of the game's profits to the Endangered Wildlife Trust. So they're not just or they are putting their mouth where their money is, which, or money where their
Money where their
whatever.
They're putting their mouth on the money. Just
Yeah,
Great way
don't
to
do
get
that.
sick.
That's Jeremy.
Yeah.
But no, they are actually trying to make a good impact on the world, which is cool. So, yeah, I played it a little bit, and it's fun. Like, I'm not too big into city builders or reverse city builders, I guess, but like it's calming and
Yeah.
kind of therapeutic almost.
Yeah.
And like Scrappy said, you have to plan ahead because you can also like by restoring parts, you get more of the like currency that's used to build more buildings. You can absolutely fail if you don't plan things out well enough.
Mhm. And last on our list is Cavern of Dreams. Austin, you want to
Yeah,
talk about that?
I'd be surprised if most people listening have heard of this because it's fairly under the radar. It's a 3D platformer in the style of like Nintendo 64 games, very inspired by like Banjo Kazooie. I actually talked to the developer about that, and he originally started as like a Banjo Kazooie like level maker, and so he kind of put that experience into his own game, Cavern of Dreams, where he plays this little dragon that's trying to find his little brothers and sisters in eggs all around the world. So it's a collectathon. It's a bit of a puzzle platformer as well. Uh, just extremely charming. Good vibes all around because he didn't want to make it a game where you use violence to move forward. So there's no combat. It's just purely how you use your like dragon abilities to navigate the world. So you can kind of like hover. You can roll around. There's also some cool items that you can find, like these magic shoes that make you like hover around the world and float. And the world design is just fantastic. There's like this giant steamship that like has a living. It's like a living steamship, like organic and mechanical combined. It's just super cool looking. You have your classic like woodsy level like you'd find in maybe Banjo and Kazooie, but most of all, I think like he just absolutely nails it for the nostalgia factor. Like it feels like it's right from the cartridge. You could probably boot it up on the Nintendo 64 and it would feel right at home. And for somebody who's grown up with those types of games, and I'm sure several of you have as well, like, you would feel the same nostalgia for it. I don't really, I want some awareness to it because I haven't seen much talk about it, but it was such a fantastic title to play. Um, and yeah, I encourage everybody to try it out.
Hmm. Yeah, Stretch, you checked it out a bit too, if I remember right, or
I had been meaning to. I had reviews and stuff come up at the same time, but that's definitely one that is on my list. I reckon I would love to see it get a port to Switch or something,
Mm.
because I that's going to be a day one buy for me on Switch.
gotcha. Well, that is all of the lists that we've gone through. So I'll read through them again just for posterity, just so we know what we have, what's in contention for our indie game of the year of 2023. We have Dredge, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Turbo Overkill, Venba, World of Horror, Terra Nil, and Cavern of Dreams. So I think next steps are maybe we should try to get a 5, whittle it down to 5, and then we can order them in a top 5 from like rank them.
Boy,
So
so we
So we
gotta
gotta
we gotta
cut three
eliminate three.
first.
yeah, we got to
Mm.
cut 3 from this list.
Which ones did Austin like? We'll put those in.
Which ones did
Oh,
Rut like? Rut likes exclusively bad games.
man,
So
at
then we're
least
Not-
trying Cavern
but
of Dreams, Terra Nil, and
progressively
Turbo
mid.
Overkill.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! All right, we're not actually going forward with this, right? Okay, I will say, like, it doesn't sound like anybody else tried out Cavern of Dreams. I kind of pushed for that to be on this list because I think it very much deserves it. But I think from a like list standpoint, we can't just include something because I like it. We have to have maybe multiple people.
yeah, we can only include things that I like, and
Well,
then we can push it forward.
oh
we
man,
don't want anything Austin likes
Yeah.
in this.
But I do agree that I think the art style for it is like really pretty, and I think it really nails that aesthetic, and it feels nostalgic while still looking a little bit modern in a way. So I think it's one that I'm glad that we got to talk about it. I'm glad that it's an honor to be nominated, right? I'm glad more people here, at least listening, will know, right? Like, okay, that's a game they might want to check out if it's their vibe, if they're into Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah. If you like Donkey Kong 64, this is your game.
I mean, yeah.
But so that takes off Cavern of Dreams.
It's like I just shot myself in the foot.
What
you
else?
gotta
It's
stay
my
out
own
of the.
nomination.
You gotta stay out of the war somehow.
I mean, you were the one that volunteered it.
I know. I'm trying to be fair.
Put
here.
yourself in this position.
Trying to be objective.
So COD is out.
Yes.
No COD in this.
Yes, the COD is an indie game.
Yes, it is.
Yep, COD.
I reckon taking an opposite approach on it. Some games in there that I definitely think have not only caught the eye of us internally here, but also externally. Dredge, Cocoon, and Sea of Stars. I can see all of them being major contenders for each just absolutely nailing what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I would agree with those three.
Yeah, I think those are probably within the list of the top 5.
So that gives us 2 more.
So 2 more between Turbo Overkill, Venba, World of Horror, and Terra Nil. We got to cut 2 of them. 50-50. We want Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Give me the lifeline.
I think I would push personally pretty hard for Venba. I really liked it.
Too.
I think it's a fantastic story. It's one that really like gets the emotional heartstrings going.
And it also uses its gameplay to help tell that story in a unique way.
And also, I think it's a unique story in games. I feel like you don't see that many stories about immigrants in video games that much.
Well, they should just make their own games then. God damn it.
Whoa.
Christ.
Cancel
Came out of nowhere.
We got cancel culture alert coming here.
But that would be my push personally for Venba. Does anyone else feel strong about others?
Yeah, I would push for Turbo Overkill because we had a lot of shooters come out this year, and that one's on top. But not only that, I mean, like, come on, Chainsaw Legs. Like, do I need to say more? It had Autumn Convinced, and
I just said good. I didn't say award winning.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
let's just clarify here.
Either way, it's a very quality title, and also
all of these are quality titles.
We kind of have to have something crazy in there, right?
Do we? We do.
I mean, World of Horror and Terra Nil are both kind of crazy in their own different
Dredge
ways.
is kind of crazy.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got Lovecrafty and stuff.
I said we got to make Austin cry was the goal. So.
I'm
very much against Turbo Overkill. This list.
It's personal.
I think because I killed one of my own choices by principle, you have to put Turbo Overkill in there.
Well, we got World of Horror and Terra Nil next. So I guess I think we're all kind of like Venba should live. We should let it continue on to our top 5.
Turbo Overkill versus World of Horror versus Terra Nil.
Yeah, a 3 for. So of those 3, is anybody particularly? We know what Austin thinks, but his opinion is kind of like. Like that.
I have played all of them about the same amount, and I would lean toward Turbo Overkill as well. But that's just my personal
That's because you and Austin are friends. This is bullshit.
No, it's what I fucking vibe with it. Like, so there's a part. I forget which right brain is emotions, left brain's logic, or is it opposite? I forget.
It's all bullshit.
Venba and Turbo Overkill are those two are like the different sides of the brain that activate all the neurons that feel real good.
So one screen you got Venba, one screen you got Turbo Overkill. Your brain is on fire.
Yeah, Venba's for the heart, and Turbo Overkill is for the adrenaline.
I mean, it really is like a shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
So,
but if do people here feel strongly about World of Horror or Terra Nil?
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Feel that strongly about it.
I think World of Horror was a lot of fun, but it's in such a niche. What it does is it does really well. I think it could have done more on the explaining of steps. But I mean, when you rack it up next to something like Sea of Stars or Cocoon, I think unfortunately it's going to fall to the wayside.
All right, so now I guess we gotta ask Rutledge here his thought on Terra Nil, whether he thinks it's top 5 worthy.
I mean, it got great reviews, but I think it might be, in terms of overarching kind of widespread, it might be less than Turbo Overkill.
Mm.
I'll be honest, I was very close to giving Turbo Overkill a 10, but that's kind of like a very high bar here at TechRaptor, even more so than perhaps
did.
other outlets.
I don't remember why you said no, but you asked me about it. I can't remember our conversation.
I think maybe
Probably
like
talked himself down.
a couple of the
He did.
a couple of the levels didn't like live up to some of the other earlier stages, but overall it was still like very close to a 10 out of 10, which for me with these shooters it's pretty rare. So yeah, I mean it is worthy, obviously my opinion, but like not just like my biases, like it is just a very quality game. Like I didn't find many bugs, if at all. So
Yeah.
We have quite the range on this list, this top 5.
We
yeah.
do. And I think
So our top 5 here is Dredge, Cocoon, Sea of Stars, Turbo Overkill, and Venba.
Yeah, and I think for most of these, we have reviews for them, and I think they're all pretty high. Like I think I gave Cocoon either a 9 or 9.5. I don't remember the exact score. Yeah, Venba got a 9. Turbo Overkill, what did you give it, Austin?
I think I gave it a 9.5.
Okay.
9.5. When you don't want to actually argue for the 10.
I forget if we have reviews for Dredge and Sea Stars.
I gave it a 9.
I reviewed Dredge. I think.
I don't think we have Sea of Stars. I think it was just one of those that it was one of those everybody was like, I'm gonna play eventually, and then maybe someone started it like me and like, fucking hey, this is long.
Yeah.
9.5
I'm still playing it
for Dredge.
We do have a Sea of Stars review actually.
And we did 7.5.
Tanushree did that one too.
Tanushree got all the good picks of the year.
Yeah, she did.
Wait, no, we didn't publish it.
So I guess Sea of Stars deals out at 5th place.
Oh no, I opened the wrong one.
What is happening here?
I clicked a bad draft, so 7.5 for Sea of Stars as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we shouldn't really be going by like just review scores, right?
No,
There are other things to consider here. Yeah.
Read our reviews.
Yeah. Okay, now I feel like this is the harder part. This is the hardest part of
this
the fucking.
This is gonna be difficult.
This is a tough one. Yeah, because like the hard thing is it's hard to say, like what's the best game with chainsaws, Turbo Overkill, but it can't compare to any of the other games, right?
This is why we're here. Now we've had the appetizers. It is now time for the main course.
Yeah.
I think based on how our colleagues have reviewed it, our site reviews here put Sea of Stars on a different level than the others, which are all 9 to 9.5s.
That's just
one opinion.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
We have to
I would not rank this based on
jury.
No.
I think you guys had some pretty strong opinions about Cocoon. Very good opinions.
I'm going hard for fucking Cocoon. Let me just say that.
I mean, maybe we will this down to top 3 and then go from there.
So right, you want to figure out what number 5 and 4 are.
What's the worst of the
what's
best?
number 5 and what's number 4?
So Andrew, earlier you were saying on Sea of Stars that one of its weaknesses was its story, which is for these RPGs a very major component.
Well, to be fair, I'd say most if we're talking about classical JRPGs, the stories are nonsensical garbage.
True, but this was also, if I remember correctly, was aiming more for the 16-bit era when you started seeing decent stories emerge.
So like if I'm going to compare it to something like a Final Fantasy VI, not comparable. Writing wise, that
is where they were going for with Chrono Trigger.
I'd say it's not like the writing is bad. It's not incredibly memorable. It's not like I'm sitting there like cringing or something, or like, oh my god, I'm so bored. It's just like it's servicing this world or this light fantasy story, and it does the job. It's not.
It's a big dumb anime plotline.
Kind of.
Which is like
not
a bad thing.
It's not bad. It does what it needs to do. But but it's not going to be the reason that's wowing you. It's the
Mm.
seeing the cool new locales in the Sea of Stars, like in the pixel art and the animation and the like the lighting that they do with it. Because one of the big mechanics is that eventually you get the power to change the time of day at will, like, and it'll just change the lighting. And I don't know why it just seems so much. It seems so cool on like a pixely game like that to see the lighting change that dramatically and do stuff. But it's a gorgeous game for that kind of stuff. For where you go and how those mechanics work with one another. Like the overworld mechanics, you get quite a bit of stuff to manipulate the world to move through things. So it's not simply point A to point B. You have quite a bit to do in between. So it's definitely it's a mechanics focused, combat focused. Like that's where you're gonna get your enjoyment out of it. Because like I said, like those boss fights are like, it's for a turn-based game, and I played a lot of them. Some of the most fun boss fight kind of things because they get really really unique with them. They're pretty cool. So definitely, I would say that does a big notch against it with the story for an RPG. Like, if it's nothing to write home about, like there's something, because even if, like I said, like a lot of those early JRPGs or like early Square Final Fantasy games and whatnot, like yes, they're nonsense and garbage, but there's always like weird fucking character moments to stand out. That doesn't have that going for it either.
Food for thought. My name is in the game, so that might diminish its value a little bit, right?
It's true. That explains the full point knockoff there for our review.
Yeah.
Right. Because I feel like with Sea of Stars, it's like maybe it's we're all getting older and time is harder to find, but like the longer a JRPG is, the harder it is to like really sink into it, right? It needs to be like an exceptional JRPG, right?
It's not Persona 5 over here.
Right. So you've got 50 hours of it under your belt.
Something like that, 40 something hours.
Would you call this an exceptional JRPG?
Boy, is our bar like Persona level? Because
it's what you want it to be.
For indie game of the year, so yeah.
It's not a Persona level game. It's whatever the tier under that would be. I'm trying to think what's the comparable. Like I said, Dragon Quest 11 fits very much butts up right up against it to me. Because Dragon Quest 11 is a great game. It's not like super over the top, or like the writing's not going to be the thing that, like, they have some charming characters and stuff going for it. And this has some of that charm, but I'd say maybe not quite as much as Dragon Quest. But it's still a good time. Like, I'm going to finish it.
Because I guess for where my head's at personally, I'm leaning toward that being a 4 or 5 on our list. That's just where I'm speaking my truth. I heard that there's the word Fleshmancer in the game. That's like what I know
that's
about
one
it.
of the bad guys.
Got it.
He's the bad man.
The Fleshmancer.
It's a bad person.
That sounds like a Diablo 4 class. Like,
it's a great game.
Yeah, it's on our list.
What more? I don't know what more to say about it.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about another game on this list before we put numbers to words. Okay, so I know Don and I are high on Venba. I want to gauge the rest of the room on this one.
I have not played it, unfortunately, but from what I know about it and I've looked into it, I see it for sure. I can see why you're so high on it. Like you said, it's a unique story we don't get very often in games, or really a lot of media doesn't do a lot of those, to be honest. A lot of stories like that, or they don't get attention.
And when they try and do it, when they try and go for it, they often go for bombast, Whereas Venba is much more low key and much more grounded, and it integrates its gameplay as well with the story. It's a key part of it.
I think what a lot of people have said about it is
an element
it's very
that's
authentic.
Yeah.
Both in kind of food and in vibes and in kind of the culture displayed.
Do you think its message is going to stick with you guys for like longer than other games?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, without a doubt.
But I also wonder for me if it's just the bias on my sleeve of like it's a lived experience I'm pretty familiar with, you know.
Well, you have two different perspectives.
For me, the only bias
true.
on that front would be a bit. There's some element of Canada, but I do not have the immigrant experience.
Exactly.
So,
Like
But
Don and you have different backgrounds, and you both find it to be quite a good game. So I think that speaks to the quality of it.
Well, I'd say less of that bias being a problem necessarily. You know what I mean? As it turns its coloring how you think about it. I would say that is reflective of how well they achieved what they were trying to do. If it resonated with, because it's obvious, like, no, you're not the only target audience, but someone that had that kind of experience, like, obviously that's someone they want to have some kind of emotional reaction to it or some kind of attachment to it in some way. And if they achieved that, someone that has that kind of lived experience that is similar, I think that's very notable.
Yeah.
If that's the goal of it.
And from my perspective, it's also really notable that it manages to touch people who don't have that.
Yeah.
Because it helps people understand that experience more.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our review also speaks high of it. Again, I don't want to like throw. I don't.
No,
we don't
it's
need
worth
to
to have
consider
those
it, but-
opinions.
But it's. I think Tanusha, you probably came from. She has another perspective on it as well, and found it to be a very high quality experience. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, the only complaint anybody really tends to have about Venba is that they wish there was more of it.
Which isn't a bad complaint.
Yeah. and honestly, I'm kind of more in line. Like, I feel like it's the perfect amount because, like, if you're the kind of person who gets a little bored by visual novels, like this is like in and out. It's so fast. Like, it's not.
And it has gameplay interactions that more than most visual novels, which I do get some people get bored by the fact that you're clicking choices or the next page. But
yeah.
You know.
Like it thrives on its. I think the scenes are simple. They don't take a lot to build up, and you're not like learning, like, you know, they were born on this time and this year and like 1980 whatever. Like it doesn't get super deep. It's more like you're understanding the core essence of these people as opposed to like their life stories.
The story's been ruthlessly edited.
Yeah.
To keep to the core this is what the story we're wanting to tell. We're not. No, that's extraneous. That's extraneous.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very tough to do well.
Yeah.
Because any of us here who've had to edit our stories or anything else, it can be really tough to figure out what exactly is the 100% core and discarding everything else.
Yeah. What about Dredge? How does the room feel about Dredge?
Obviously, number one.
I don't know. Rut's taste is like aggressively mid, so it's hard for me to. I'm trying to like reconcile that with Dredge.
Yeah, but we have Scrappy's word. Like, you know, he can speak to it.
He can overrule any past history for me.
I don't know about that. But...
I don't know.
I don't like Elex if that's what you're looking for. If you're fishing for that, I can't help you.
If you listen to the podcast at all, me and Stretch agree pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
famously, we have never had a disagreement.
Man, I can't wait for the game of the year discussion.
That one's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Not that this isn't. It's just that because of people, there's more likely people played everything.
Yeah,
it'll be very.
One of the big challenges for creating this list is trying to get people with overlap because a lot of these games
overlap because there's so many indie games that come out. And there's so many like really, really fucking good ones that come out.
I mean, also so much variety.
Yeah, like you can just look at the top 5 we have, right? Like all 5 of these games, like none of them are the same or like
wildly
similar.
Different.
Like yeah,
incredibly different games.
Mm-hmm.
Even the whole top 8.
Yeah, everything we have, it's great.
There's not really. The closest thing to an overlap is a Lovecraftian element between World of War and Dreadcraft.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
But then the Lovecraft elements are quite different from each other.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, my experience with Dredge, I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it. That's like I would not have like I don't even understand 80 hours. If I'm being on 80 hours, I don't understand that.
Guides.
Yeah, it's
Fair.
just
Okay.
Rut sucks at games. What
Yeah.
normally takes some, when a developer comes
can't
out and
play.
says, "Yeah, this game will take 20 hours," Rut's like, "Oh shit, I'm so bad at games, it's gonna take me
Yeah.
80."
Like to this
Secretly,
day,
that
he's still playing
Cuphead
Dying
footage
Light
was
2.
actually Rut the whole time.
I'm still
This
playing
is why
what?
Rut has
He-
never played Persona 5.
Dying Light 2. It takes 500 hours for the average person to beat it. But
Oh no, I bounced off that like in 10.
Dying Light 2
It didn't even
that was a
finish it.
game.
yeah.
So,
But-
as someone who doesn't have as much of a horse in this race, admittedly, what is really sounding like, and I'm, and at this point, I'm not doing it for shits and giggles, but it sounds like Dredge, Cocoon, and Venba are going to be our top 3.
Yep.
And I,
Oh.
but I think we're not dismissing anything in the list, just as we're whittling down from our like continually tighter scrutiny list. I think Dredge, Cocoon, and Venba are where we're leaning. Are there any?
who's we?
I
Yeah.
think he's trying to
I'm
speak for
listening
us
to you.
all.
I'm listening. I'm absorbing. I'm taking in
I guess
the praise.
coming out is royalty right now.
The royally.
Whoa.
I with Dredge, I am not as sure on that one personally. Being in the top 3 for me.
Oh boy.
Um,
So if
Drama.
Dredge wasn't in the top 3, do you think that Sea of Stars or Turbo Overkill is more likely to be up there?
for me, it'd be Turbo Overkill. I think.
Turbo Overkill. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, like chainsaw
Oh,
legs, man.
Austin, you're not helping.
I mean, you got any more to offer than chainsaw legs, pal?
Yeah,
You
I
say
mean,
chainsaw arms, I will clap.
A second chainsaw leg.
Yeah.
all right, hear me out. Your whole body is a chainsaw.
Mm.
You're
Nah,
just a
I mean it's not
chainsaw.
true. I mean it does something that like other shooters don't often do, and that is like it creates the levels to and look, I'm gonna talk about chainsaw legs to take advantage of your abilities like your chainsaw legs. And I don't know, just like it continually surprises you with the level design, with the new enemies, the new weapons. um it constantly tries to one up itself, and at the end of it you kind of just have this experience that's just like kind of blows you away just because of how crazy and fun it is. So like it's not the most complex game, it's not like the most artsy game ever, but it doesn't need to be because it has
Because
chainsaw
chainsaw
legs.
legs.
It's the most video
Yeah.
gamey video game.
It is a very
I
video
mean,
game ass video game.
it's what makes video games great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
it's one of those things that doesn't work in other mediums. Mostly, imagine trying to read a fucking book about Turbo Overkill.
no, it
right?
wouldn't work.
No,
it would probably
You
be pretty
might
boring.
yeah.
you might be able to do a movie on it, but like
No.
It'd be a shitty movie.
No,
it
it
would
wouldn't
yeah.
It'd be a B movie at best. Like
Yeah.
I think to me it's more of a lizard brain thing for sure. Like I have more fun with Turbo Overkill than I do with Dredge. Like that is just like a pure fun factor. That's where my brain's at with it. Because I think Turbo Overkill does a really good job of like, because like Apex Legends did the downhill speed thing, which I thought was like kind of novel at the time when they first came out with it. And then Turbo Overkill kind of like extended like, what if we make that deadly, right? So when you come across a level, and like for a while, especially when you start playing it, your brain's probably going to be in like boomer shooter territory of like move fast, weave, like never stop moving, keep shooting, whatever, right? Like that sort of thing. But you slowly start learning the downhill part of it and the momentum, and like you try to put yourself in situations where you can utilize that momentum really well to not only dodge and weave but to kill, right? So then when you come across a level where it's like I remember one early on where it's basically like the bowl of a skate park, like just and then there's just like a bunch of like mobs in the middle of it, and your brain's like, okay, I could shoot them, or I could throw a grenade down there, or I can play some Tony Hawk Pro Skater real quick and just go right down in there and just keep going back and forth, and that I think was really neat and novel for like turning something that's dumb and silly and fun to something like interesting.
A couple more points I hope in favor of Turbo Overkill. You get fists that are like super anime. They like JoJo Aura, you know, like, and just punch the shit out of people. And that's a power up. There's also like
Austin
there's a
explaining this game. So you have chainsaw legs, but you also have fists.
Shut the hell up, bro.
Like normal.
Let me
Hear me out.
Anime ass.
There's
fists.
also a
and
grappling hook.
rockets.
There's
There's a
grappling
what?
hook. A
Well,
grappling hook. Every
isn't that
shooter
like
needs one, right?
a necessary? Yeah, isn't that like necessary now?
There's also
After
a
Master Chief.
sniper that you aim at somebody and you replace their position, so it like kills them, but then you teleport on their position when they die.
How do they explain that technology?
It doesn't matter. You
my
don't
Yeah,
need
why
to.
do you
My-
why do you need an
Why
explanation?
do you care?
suspension of disbelief is out
Or
the window now.
realism.
I
Yeah,
can't.
you could believe chainsaw
all
legs.
the
but
all
this
the other
is-
stuff I was on board, but this is too far. Now we're talking about like magic.
Wow. Oh, actually, I have a screenshot of I have 2 chainsaw arms as well. So like, yeah.
So Rutledge, on behalf of Dredge, what do you have to say?
It's the most unhinged fucking explanation of a game.
It fucking is.
Turbo
It's a very
Overkill,
Austin
it's-
explanation.
It's sounding
too.
like the greatest game ever made. The more I hear,
It's pretty damn good.
I mean, I can't one up chainsaw legs.
yeah. What is your
That's for
stupid
sure.
fucking boat game?
Chainsaw
have?
arms too, dude.
chainsaw boat.
No, I mean, for me, it's just. Yeah, I can't compare the two. I guess like
Yeah.
it's
No,
just-
you're not
they're two very
comparing it,
different.
but
I think it's
what's
just for me,
the-
it was just a very well
What's
crafted.
the satisfying part of it? Why is it so satisfying? What is it that you get out of it? What's the experience, and why is it so good at giving you that?
I think so. The fishing mechanic is very simple but satisfying.
What does it do anything different with fishing than past games?
No, not at all. And that I mean that's the thing with Dredge. It doesn't do.
How is
anything
that better than
necessarily
chainsaw
different.
legs, dude?
That's what's so funny.
Come on. It's the most
Like I said,
stupid
you
fucking
can't-
argument.
That's what's so funny. It's just insane. Like a game
Yeah,
of the
you got like
going to fishing is just hilarious.
yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. I got
I
I
mean-
got nothing for you. I think for me it was kind of the mystery and some of the kind of puzzle elements that kept me
Ambience as well.
coming back and the ambiance. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean the
They're
fishing.
two very different experiences. I think if you're someone who likes to explore with very little direction, Dredge does that exceptionally well. You have the context clues, but they're not necessarily in your face in terms of like you need to go here.
I like the play on. So I haven't played it, but it's something I want to play. But I like the idea of how you guys were talking about earlier of like you're saying, it's no direction really for exploring, but it both rewards and can punish you for your curiosity, so that there's some trepidation. You're like, oh, I want to, but do I want to? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is a really interesting way to do that.
An example of that too. So there's docks kind of littered throughout the map, and I would say 60% of the docks have no impact on the story. You don't have to visit them, but there's things.
So it's
there.
like Starfield.
No, what
he's-
makes
he's-
Starfield different is 95%.
Yeah, it's just, I'll say the
that's
percentage is different.
98%. That's 98%. As someone who has 100%.
Robert, what would you
Um,
say is it that made Dredge not quite click for you as much?
Oh, it clicks for me fine. I just like Turbo Overkill better. I see Dredge for what it is, and I feel like I've got a good grasp on it. I vibe more with I think Turbo Overkill as it's just the personal taste thing, right? It's like
I think that's where a lot of it comes down to.
yeah, like I think both are fantastic games. It's just when I think of like what game am I usually more in the mood to play, it's a game like Turbo Overkill, I think.
I think that's a dangerous line of thinking because, I mean,
Mm.
are you always in the mood to play Venba?
No, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then where do you rank like, hey, this is a game that I've enjoyed playing versus this is a game that has spoken to me?
Welcome to
Like-
the fucking show, Stretch.
Yeah. Now the show really begins.
No, but what I want to say is that
Yeah, I
you know,
know- I
if
know
there's a
what you're
game that speaks to me, then that means that a game can do all of its elements right and just
Yeah.
be a really good game. But if a game does everything really well, but also like speaks out, it doesn't have to be some soapboxy message, but you know, for people it can be like a, hey, I see you, like this isn't this, you know, you're not alone in XYZ experience. That's really powerful. Those games that kind of reach out from behind the screen and are like, look at this, like check this out, this is so cool.
I mean, what's
You know,
more
that can be
cool than Johnny Turbo, right?
Fucking guy.
Can we kick this guy?
At this point, we could disconnect Austin from the call, and then like every 5 minutes have a soundboard that says chainsaws, and it would be contributing just as much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I do like about Dredge is that it there's a thing. So in the beginning, they make a really good strong point of like, don't go out at night. Like when it's nighttime, you'll get fucked up. Right?
Bad news.
Yeah. And then early on you basically start figuring out what your the vital path, the critical path is, which is like collect the 5 MacGuffins. And then you realize the first one, it's like, oh, but it only shows up at night. So now you're like, okay, well, the game has been telling me don't do nighttime, but also I have to do nighttime to progress the story, right? So that's the moment where I think it, like, if you aren't already a naturally curious fuck around and find out person, the game is like pushing you into the deep end and saying like, go out there and fuck around, right? So it's like an early way to like teach you the language of this game is to break the rules of it, or at least see like where the boundaries really are, because people will tell you things, but your experience in it is going to be different probably than what the game tells you about like what it's expecting of you, right? So I do like that aspect of it. It does like reward your curiosity, I guess.
Well, and there's the kind of what Otten was alluding to. If you damage your boat, you lose chunks of inventory, and you can actually lose side quest items, and you can't get them back. And there's a couple of other side quests that, if you don't get them a fish fast enough, they just die.
Oh,
So there's like a timing
That's pretty
element there. Yeah. So there's a
Nice.
couple of things kind of littered in there that I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And there's still one mystery I haven't figured out in the game, where there's these kind of stones littered throughout, and each one has a different message. And there's two different stones. One of them's like, give me specific fish. And this other one's like, you touch it and it's just a cold feeling. Or you touch another one and it's like,
oh,
you touch it and there's a feeling of, and then it explains some stuff. I have not figured out the second one yet. And I don't want to Google it because I kind of want to figure it out myself.
All that sounds great because I like that this is a much more modern way of designing games, in that open worlds in the past were like, there's the question mark on the map, go to the fucking question mark. That's how they incentivize you to go look at shit.
Ubisoft still does that.
Yeah, I said that's very much the old school, the way that the world we've been living in for a while.
Bethesda still believes in it.
Well, there's a reason they might not.
They're not going to change that. That's for sure.
But what's cool about this is like that next iteration. This is like why people liked Elden Ring so much, right? It's just like, hey, go fucking your natural curiosity should be what drives you forward towards something, or that you see something interesting, or it's something in the game that you personally like. I want to fucking know about that. What is this thing? Not there's a thing. There's the check mark, the checklist that I just did because it was a thing on the map. And I really like that. And like what I was getting at before, like I really, really like that tension between like, oh, sometimes I get fucked by my curiosity, like bad. And it's like, this is a little bit of a risk taking if I want to do that, but I don't have to. But there's potentially big consequences if I don't. And I think that's really compelling. That not a lot of games do, because like you said, like that's pretty crazy about losing side quest items. You're just like, well, you're fucked. See ya. Like usually most games are not that punishing. Like to finish some kind of quest or do something like that, there's usually a way to come back or figure something, and something that's committed to, well, babe, like I said, it should be Dredge, fuck around and find out. Should be the fucking name. And that sounds great. I love that look at it.
So I guess we're deciding here between Turbo Overkill and Dredge for the final top 3 slot.
Yeah, I think so.
So
yeah, because
I mean, also counterpoint then, if we're fighting for Are we fighting for which one will be 3 and which one will be 4?
We're
Yeah.
fighting for Austin to not have a game.
Okay, so if we're fighting for which one is 3 and which one is 4, and we already kind of know which one is 1 and 2.
We don't though. We're just we don't.
We don't.
We haven't even really discussed the two.
Yeah.
With the, I mean, I guess Sea of Stars is probably 5. We could probably just
Yeah,
we could all
I
live
just
with
moved
that.
that over. That needs to be a pretty safe.
We can all live with
cut
Sea
it
of
this-
Stars at 5.
Yeah.
So maybe we kind of settle it as there's the top 4, and we've.
But the top 4, I mean, I've heard some very compelling things about Turbo Overkill, and very compelling things about Dredge.
Chainsaws.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my line.
Dredge doesn't need a fucking gimmick, okay? How about that?
It's not there are look, I'm just talking about the coolest gimmick, but there are multiple gimmicks.
This game's full of them. We got a
started to
gimmick for
say-
everything.
He started to say that it's not a gimmick, then he changed it.
Look,
It's got lots of gimmicks, all right?
would you rather fish or would you rather kill robots with a chainsaw?
Depends on how I'm feeling.
Oh my god.
Because I think where I'm coming from with it is I agree that the curiosity that Dredge inspires and strikes in people, that I think is a more compelling like mechanic than Turbo Overkill's like fucking slide into things with a chainsaw. But then I think the way you mechanically explore, the way you like video game mechanics, right? Like capital M mechanics satiate that curiosity is just QTEs. And because the fishing game is just like there's a radial, like there's different ones. But one is like there's a radial and you press A at the right time or you whatever. And then there's one where it's like the circle gets bigger and then you press A when it matches up with the bigger circle. So like yeah, I guess. So it's very like, you know, it's like, yes, I'm curious and I want to go to that thing and see and fuck around and find out. But the way you fuck around is you press F or A at the right time. So that I think is where it diminishes it for me a little bit in terms of
I see you.
There's good curiosity, but the pathway to satiate it is okay. It's just all right, you know?
Yeah.
In terms of combat in Turbo Overkill, shut up.
Chainsaw.
You use weapons to do
if you had
to kill robots and
freaking chainsaws.
I'm really actually overselling that point, and I shouldn't because there's more to it than that. But if you had to compare it to a game, it feels closer to Doom Eternal than like say Call of Duty, and obviously Doom. I mean, it's Bulletstorm's its own beast, but it's on par with like the craziness and just the nonstop action that you get in Doom Eternal or something like that, which will keep me more engaged than, unfortunately, like a fishing QTE. But I guess it depends on what you're in the mood for.
And I'd be much more interested in general with Dredge and the mysteries and stuff, where the gameplay is more of a vehicle for discovering elements and things than it is for necessarily driving the action.
How often are you doing these QTEs?
Every time you fish. Every time you dredge something up from the sea. Every time you
that's why they call it Dredge.
Yeah.
I thought they just misspelled dread.
Dredge. More like I'd rather be Dedge. Got him.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the mechanic moments
be arranged
are like you're sailing the boat to a place, you talk to some people at the docks, you manage your inventory, very Resident Evil 4 style, and then you QTE for fish and dredge. So all of those things, like they're serviceable. Like none of them are bad. I never am like, God, I hate having to do this. They're just serviceable to me, I guess. You know, they do what they need to do.
When you do successfully dredge something up, how long is does it just pop into your inventory, or is there like a small cutscene of you like pulling the thing out of the water?
It automatically puts it in your inventory.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's a huge
it makes
part
it has a little
Unlike
jingle.
Bethesda, they understand.
And if it's a regular fish, it's one's jingle. If it's
Or it's just like
Abhorrent.
the games that are like you're gonna do this thing, and every time you do this thing, there's gonna be a 5 to 10 second animation, but you're gonna do this thing 10,000 times in the game. That
I would
would
have bounced off the game so hard if that were the case.
okay.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, right, like, you finished
It's very
Starfield,
quick,
so
very
we-
easy, straightforward.
Right, like you finished Starfield, so we know you wouldn't have bounced off the game.
Once you
That's
figure
more
out how to
loading
fast
screens.
travel efficiently, it's not as bad.
I feel like we're
Yeah.
starting
Once
to
you figure out how to
overthink it.
avoid all the animations.
All of the general Bethesda jank. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Like I guess when I'm thinking about it with, because I feel like it seems like curiosity is like the big driving factor for Dredge, right? I think another game on this list that hits that is Cocoon. Cocoon is a game that really tickles your curiosity. I think the way that the reward feels a lot more intrinsic in that it's you figured it out, you feel the satisfaction of it. Whereas Dredge, I feel like the rewards aren't as intrinsic. It's like, oh, I got a goldfish, not a gold ranked fish, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, so is Dredge sounds like it might be settling into the 4th position. Is that where
Dude,
we're going?
is that what we want to go with?
I think
Perhaps.
that's fair.
That means Austin still survives.
He's in it.
Bro, you don't
He's
even
in
want to
it.
know
Okay,
what's.
so we can now agree that it's not number 1, right?
Yeah, I think the highest Turbo Overkill is getting is 3 for me.
Yeah.
So-
We're not fighting for number 1. It's just 3 and 4.
Well,
No,
we're
we're
just
fighting for number 1.
we're doing
The whole
everything, but it
point
just
of
I
felt
mean,
like
between these two,
the way the conversation's gone, Dredge just feels like it's settled there.
Mm.
So
I
4
think
is
that's fair.
Dredge, 3 is Turbo Overkill.
Well, I don't know yet.
no, it
Yeah,
could
I
be
don't-
2.
well,
Who
because
knows?
now we have Cocoon, Venba, and Turbo Overkill as the
Our top
potential.
So
three.
let's maybe go between Cocoon and Venba.
Yeah, we haven't really heard anything from the Cocoon folks.
Oh,
about
'cause
that game.
it needs.
I think that's because we know.
Yeah, this is one of those like
It sounds like
it's
Cocoon's probably going to be number.
it's the Tears of the Kingdom of this year. You know what I mean? Like it's everyone looks at it and they're like, "Yep, everyone's batting for second." you know?
Another notable indie game,
Yes.
self-published. In fact.
Yeah, but
It
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
really, if we're going with self-published, then I would like to bring in Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh my god.
We're not having that
that's-
conversation. That was just a joke.
Do you guys? Is that's
Baldur's
Baldur's
Gate
Gate 3's entrance music? Do you hear? It's coming out from
Oh,
running
no.
down the ramp.
And it's just wiping them all the time.
Just threw Turbo Overkill out of the ring.
I mean, I think I
Wait,
feel
why
like
Turbo Overkill? Why not Sea
like
of
Baldur's
Stars?
Gate
That's number
3 is
5.
not- you're not really voting for that. You're voting for whoever your favorite person you want to bang is. That's
Where
the
are
whole
we
point of that
going?
game, right?
Wait.
What just happened?
Rewind. What did you just say?
If we're gonna
I think
distill
Rut just
things
said he
down
wants to
to
bang a chainsaw.
chainsaw leg,
Yeah.
that's Baldur's Gate's gimmick.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Thirst traps.
I guess that's a real strained fucking. It's a really labored.
Where are we
Listen, I
going?
spend a
to
lot
make.
of time on Twitter.
Why do we take your opinion for
Why do we take yours?
into consideration when you say shit like that?
I don't know. That's the ADD, man.
I
Unfiltered
guess.
thoughts.
So we got,
Cocoon.
Cocoon, Venba, Turbo Overkill. So so those are our 3. Are people gonna want to make their cases for
I mean, it sounds like for
where
the
they
3
should
of you,
land?
Cocoon is number 1. For sure.
I still say that the game that moved me the most this year and the one that had me downing the world and thinking about things was Venba. Though I haven't played the other 2, so it's kind of tough for. But it was a game that really touched me and helped me
Summation
think
of the
about
last
world.
one is just chainsaw legs. So
Yeah.
Calm down, all right? Give Vimba number 2. I don't like chill. No, but it really does sound like Vimba has a more lasting impact than other games on this list. Perhaps the most.
was there any
thoughtful.
message to Cocoon beyond the kind of exploration and puzzle stuff? Was there like a deeper?
So Cocoon
Without spoiling.
is
It doesn't
No.
have a focus in story at
no,
all.
Yeah.
it's just like there's a world, weird shit happens, and then at the end you're like, did I? Huh.
Did I
And
do
like
that?
that's what the fuck? And that's how you feel at the end of Cocoon.
Yeah. I I think the message and story isn't the goal
No,
of it.
no,
I
no.
think if for me, if we were trying to determine best piece of media, and this is our list, I feel like Venba is the stronger, like it has a stronger message. I think it resonates more with people, has a better narrative that I think is a more universal
Sure.
thing that more people will absorb and be impacted by. When I think of games specifically, I feel like Cocoon is like a puzzle box that is software. It's like a software puzzle box where like every little thing you do is like satisfying and intrinsic, and it's like you're you're figuring shit out, right? And it feels like a video game, right? Whereas like Venba, I feel like the cooking parts are very nice and it's really interesting to figure them out in like a puzzle game mechanic kind of way. But I also feel like Venba could be a book, could be a movie, could be a TV show too,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
With Cocoon, it's full of like I think I've written this in various ways in different reviews. To me, the most powerful things games can do is it invokes some kind of like eureka moment in you. Either like I figured something out, I beat this boss, I figured out this mechanic, I got this combo down, whatever that is, you achieve, you get to that little level of achievement, that pop, that that endorphin, that rush comes in when you do it. And Cocoon is like that, one after the other all the time. Like you said, it makes you feel much smarter than you are. You're like, yeah, I fucking figured this out. Look how clever I am. But it does that in a way that because of the way it leads you down a path of introducing mechanics and doing stuff, it's so natural. Where like if we were to try to explain a puzzle later in the game to you, like one of the later ones, just with you guys having no context, it would be like a lot to tell you about because there's a lot going on. But the way that it's presented to you is it's intuitive and it just naturally fits in. Like you get within the rules of this world very quickly, and it creeps the complexity onto you in a way that you don't notice.
It
Like if I were to
does
try
like
to play it later on, like now, because I've forgotten so much, I'd be like, I don't
Yeah, you have to
fucking
start from
know.
the beginning.
Exactly. It's very much like play it in one or two sittings in like a day or two. Do not do more because that's the best way to experience it.
it sounds a lot like almost how the Mario games are designed for how it layers things on top of each other.
Yeah.
For one
Like,
thing, test it, iterate, then do another thing, and then combine.
very
And
much. Yeah, when I
I mean,
wrote the inside review, I referenced the indie game, the movie, which is what Edward McMillan, who did Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac and stuff, he was specifically referencing how Miyamoto and stuff, they're talking about how they did the 1-1 of Mario and stuff like that. So it's exactly the same philosophy.
yeah, I think okay, this is gonna be like a spoiler on one of the like game mechanics, but I think it really illustrates just like the layers you have to think about in this game. So you can put worlds within worlds within worlds, right?
yeah,
So there's one orb where when you put it in a mechanism, it starts shooting like a bullet, and you want to lead that bullet to like a certain thing that like it turns on a switch, basically, right? So if they're in the same world, if the like the turret and the target are in the same world, easy, just like line them up and you're good, right? But what if that target is in a third world, like 3 layers in? So now you need to shoot the bullet at a world and then go into that world and then see where that bullet is going now from inside of it, if that makes sense, and then figure out a way to lead it into another world
Yeah,
or
get
something
into
along those
that third
lines.
one. And then that will
Yeah.
then shoot out of that one, and then you get into that third world, and you then have to align it with where the fuck it's going in that one. So
Yeah.
it gets just all these layers that work upon one another, that are great.
Yeah, and it took me like a minute and a half to explain all that. When you get to that point in the game, your brain's like like done, 5
Yeah,
seconds at most, your
you don't.
synapses are firing, and you're
You're
like,
on
yeah,
it. You're like, oh, I
yeah,
fucking know what this wants me to do. Bam, 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 bam. Like
yeah.
you're on the move.
Mhm.
And it's so like I love that line. You do feel like some savant, like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
a genius. I'm fucking so smart. It's like, no,
yeah.
it's just they've just crafted it and designed it so meticulously well that it makes you feel that way. It's incredible.
Mhm.
It's a great game.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, how's the rest of the room feeling about our list right now? Do we want to talk more about Turbo Overkill?
How much more do I need to say?
I mean, we got chainsaws, we got launchers, we got
We
grappling.
got JoJo fists.
We got
Johnny
JoJo
Turbo.
fists. We got anime fists. His name's Johnny Turbo, which is
Chainsaw
great.
arms.
Jojo, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Johto.
Johnny Turbo a better or worse name than Travis Touchdown?
It's both.
Johnny Turbo.
They're
way
both.
better.
They're equally ridiculous. So our three left are Venba, Cocoon, and whatever game Austin was talking about.
So, my
It was
feeling
Cavern
is
of Dreams.
Turbo Overkill is probably the
Yes.
third. And then probably, from what you guys are saying, Cocoon probably.
Well, we're not. We want. Like I said before we started. I guess we didn't really talk about it too much. I want this to be a consensus we can all live with.
Yeah.
Maybe you disagree, but you're like, all right, I could see it.
I'm
Mhm,
perfectly
I think.
fine with Turbo Overkill's number 3. I think it deserves it. And
Yeah.
Cocoon honestly sounds like a number 1
Yeah,
from
and Cocoon, like,
everything.
you guys have really sold Cocoon to me. It's gone from
I
a
already
game that I
downloaded it.
hadn't really thought about playing. I heard about it, but didn't
For
really
Yep.
necessarily
For
want to
people
check
interested
it out
in
too much.
playing Cocoon as
On
well,
Game
it's on
Pass.
Game Pass.
It is on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Phil.
They'll send us our check.
I think
Venba's on Switch.
Cocoon
Venba's
is
also on Game Pass.
They're both on Game Pass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
actually.
true.
So,
They're both on
hey, download both right now.
Well, shit, I might play Venba later then.
I guess I need to check his Turbo Overkill there too.
But one thing that I want to say about Cocoon too is that this is one of those games that I think, not that I don't think this. What's the right word? Right way. I don't think that this is a game that's going to resonate a lot with critics and people that really like games more so than maybe someone that casually plays games like every once in a while, or like, it's not their main hobby or something like that, because of how if you like to think about design and how creatively mechanics can go, like that's the extra like level of like, oh shit, that's like really fucking cool, that's really unique, that's really interesting, like that's a cool way to think about this kind of thing. Or like how most of how me and Robert described it was kind of like how they introduced the game to you, not like playing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the part that really like oh fuck, that's so well done. But not to say that playing it is not fun, because it's absolutely super enjoyable. Like I said, you feel like you're a fucking genius for a couple
Yeah.
hours, and then you
I
get
didn't
done with
think
it. You're
that
like, I'm
it sounded
done
like
again.
it was a lot of fun as you're putting these
but-
pieces together, constantly building on them, iterating.
But that's that like extra secret ingredient to me that puts it over the top, is like just how it gets really creative in thinking of its mechanics and doing interesting things and like kind of running an idea into the ground, but in a good way. And that it's like, all right, we've exhausted the coolness of this without getting
everything
too
we could
crazy.
do with this idea.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of like, just to bring back to Mario again, it's like it's what they did with like Cappy. Cappy is relatively simple, but I'm sure that's over many iterations of like, all right, where do we end up with like, oh, this is all intuitively makes sense.
Yeah.
But they kind of did all that they thought would be like, oh, this fucking works. And it's a similar thing here. It's just super smartly done and obviously very intentioned. Good shit. Cocoon is one of my favorite games I've played in a while.
Yeah.
Because of how it scratched that itch.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess like, okay, not to throw a wrench in.
Do
here,
it. That's
when
what
we
this
feel
is
like
for.
We're like close to ending here. So I agree with you that Cocoon is a game that's like, it builds on your understanding of video game. Like there are just video game rules you kind of learn the more games you play, right? Venba, I feel like I could recommend to anyone, and in fact, I do recommend like almost everyone.
That's kind of what
play
I
it.
was getting at. Is that I think Cocoon is one of those things where like we elevated a little more because of we have a little bit more of understanding of games, or we think that's the kind of stuff we think about when someone that's playing it that's not on their mind.
Yeah,
You know
we're
what I
pro
mean?
gamers. Yeah.
But that's the point I was trying to make.
We're
That
game
maybe your average
philosophers.
person might not get as much out of it as we did because they're not thinking. Not that they don't understand that. It's just that that's not what they're thinking about. That's the kind of shit we like to think about.
Right. But so
Yeah.
because of that,
Yeah.
would it make more sense for Venma to be number one? Because
we don't really have a criteria set other than
Yeah.
what do we think is the best overall package, essentially.
It sounds like you're trying to think what's more appealing to the mainstream, but is that
Yeah, this award isn't for the fucking normies. Come on.
yeah?
our game of the year for the norm.
Well, that's just Call of Duty every year.
FIFA.
Yeah.
I think that would be Counter-Strike 2.
FIFA
this
first
year.
cause.
Dude, you've been playing
sure?
Counter-Strike 2 like every
That's
day.
that's
I
on
have.
the computer. That's for fucking nerds. Only
Yeah,
nerds.
only
play on
nerds
computers.
do computer games.
Yeah.
I
get your point. No, that's kind of the one thing I was getting with Cocoon. I was like, yeah, like in terms of a mass appeal thing, Venba definitely is one of those, because you guys mentioned it, the heart. I mean, it sounds like a very human story that has those elements that anybody should be able to relate to in some fashion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know the game is set in Canada, but Americans, you guys can enjoy it too.
Yes, Canada and America have
Canada,
similarities.
not interested anymore.
Just
Yeah.
like immigration culture is very prevalent in both countries. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even if you know, there's
Can
a lot
confirm.
of people in the South who seem to hate it.
What do you know about that, Stretch?
Yeah, you live in Florida. There's nobody down there.
Because I don't know.
I
guess
think-
yeah, go ahead.
I think that there's something really interesting to be said about how, like, I think as we're talking about indie game of the year, I still think that I'm leaning towards Cocoon, but like I think what you said, the idea of Venba and its importance as media, definitely it I don't want to say it transcends this list or anything dopey like that.
That sounds
But-
so pretentious.
Right? Exactly.
No, it
But-
transcends this list. Go
If
on.
we were doing
Yes,
this
Yeah,
sort of
that's what
games
I've
for
heard.
impact, Venba would be. I don't think there's anything that compares.
Yeah, I
this
think
year.
that it would be a
Yeah.
hands down easy victory, and I think that it's definitely a hard decision to make here. But I think for indie game of the year, like I still personally am leaning towards Cocoon.
I'd be fine. I'm fine with Cocoon at the top there. I think that it sounds like an absolutely great time and great game too. And one point one could also make about Venba is that it is so short, and for some people that is going to be a
Cocoon's only
a
5 or
decline.
so hours.
Yeah, both are relatively
not
short.
even. 2 hours.
I'll say Cocoon is about
Cocoon
5 or
is.
so hours. Yeah,
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
Venba's about
5
like
to 6.
I mean,
that's why I say Cocoon's a really great like sit down in one experience in one sitting. I mean, or 2 sittings maybe,
Mhm.
but like really close together. Don't let time go in between them.
Yeah. But so is that what we're looking at then? Is number 5 is Sea of Stars, which is also Game Pass. So hey,
Also,
shout
Game
out
Pass. That's
shout
how I'm
out
playing it.
Xbox. This list is
We're
sponsored by
just an
Xbox.
Xbox.
Yeah,
Just an Xbox.
we're not
Yeah.
sponsored by Xbox. Don't. say
Yeah,
it.
find us on the Xcast at Kind of Fun. No, I'm kidding. number 5, Sea of Stars. Number 4, Dredge. Number 3, Turbo Overkill. Number 2, Venba. Number 1, Cocoon. Is that
Is that
the list?
do we all feel
Yes.
comfortable with this
Yeah.
list? All right,
I
now
think
let me
so.
bring in my actual secret nominee.
Baldur's Gate 3. Boom.
Dave the
with
Diver.
chair.
Yeah, Dave the Diver is
Oh,
actually
God.
the real winner.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth
Um,
noting too. Like, really, all the games we talked about today, like, if any of them, if you haven't heard of it or haven't checked it out, like, I mean, we talked about them all for a reason, right? Like,
They're all great.
we're not
Yeah.
saying like Cocoon's the only good game, the rest are garbage. Like, that's not the whole point.
They're
of
all
this.
fantastic.
Yeah, like we also had like World of Horror, Terra Nil, and Cavern of Dreams in contention as well. For our own honorable mentions, we had The Last Spell, Geodepths, Ravenlock, Slay the Princess, Cobalt Core, Spin Rhythm XD. Like all of these games are like, if any of them appeal to you even a little bit, check
Yep.
them out. You know, like they come with our recommendation.
We would recommend all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
We just have to rank them because of clickbait.
That's right.
So
Have to make
And-
sure the names
and
are in the
there's-
title so that Google recognizes us.
There's nothing
And if
nerds
you
like
games
more
were-
than arguing over what's the best of something and
Yes.
numerically listing them.
yes.
Yeah.
In
Like
any-
how
any
I'm
bit.
the best Andrew, and then the number 2
God fucking
Andrew
damn it,
is
Stretch.
Otten.
You don't even go by Andrew. You don't even use the name.
Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter.
we eliminated a few games in the pre-show, like Baldur's Gate 3 and Dave the Diver, as well as Risk
Yeah.
of Rain Returns and Song of Nunu because of their publishing or
'Cause they're not in
size
the
of the
game.
game.
Yeah,
So-
they're
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them indie really.
Yeah.
And don't you worry if you're worried about whether or not we'll talk about Baldur's Gate 3, there will be
We
another another game of the year
We're going
podcast
to talk about it
coming.
a lot.
the actual
Yes.
Game of the Year podcast, which I will be this party for, and they've got somebody else coming in. And if they don't give the award to Baldur's Gate 3, I may be needing a passport down south.
Is Austin going to be on that one too?
Of course I am. What do you think?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Luckily, he doesn't have
good.
Turbo Overkill to talk about. Actually, he could. Fuck.
I
Yeah,
could
Game of the
find
Year's
Technically,
open.
the indie games
Shit.
could bought. Yeah.
I could
Yeah,
find
Hades-
something Turbo Overkill adjacent.
Yeah, Hades won both the year it came out.
That's true.
Well
You can't
deservedly.
talk
That's
about
true,
Turbo Overkill.
True.
But I mean, the fact that it didn't win this would probably disqualify Turbo Overkill.
Or-
The real
This is
question is Game Mill on the table, because I have a couple games I could talk about there.
Well, we'll save that for the next chat.
Yeah, because if you think
Fuck.
about it too, like Turbo Overkill does transcend this list and kind of does get into the game, like a real game of the year.
That's right. It's a real gamer's game. Turbo Overkill.
I see I have two
How
soldiers
dare.
for my cause, so
It is the gamiest game of games.
It is
Yes.
a real gamer's game.
Indeed. But I think that is a wrap. We've found Cocoon. Congratulations.
Objectively decided the best indie game released this year.
Yeah.
there's
Don't need to
no
watch any
other-
other podcast, any other.
Yeah,
video.
and guys,
As a matter of fact, go tell them how wrong they are and redirect them to ours.
exactly.
Whoever says otherwise.
Yeah, Jeff.
Fucking Jeff. I don't even remember who won.
I mean, they dominated Dave the Diver, which is
Yeah.
made by Nexon, a billion-dollar company.
Yeah. Well, tune in. What is it? Tomorrow we're going to be dropping the Game of the Year ones. We're doing
Yep.
them on 2 separate
Indie
days.
Game of the Year tomorrow. Game of the Year tomorrow.
And if this is your first time hearing about us, like for the past few days, we've been dropping our other awards on our website. Those are in written form. We've done like best soundtrack. We have got best multiplayer. We've got best visual design. There's a lot more out there that you can see because we're just celebrating the games of 2023. Because like we've said on the podcast before, it's a lot of games in 2023 to celebrate and talk about.
A lot
So
of great games.
And
If you're looking
Sea
to
of
celebrate
Thieves won
more.
the Indie Keeleys. Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars.
No,
Sea of
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Our number 5 game won the Keeleys.
Yeah. They were really wrong. Fucking.
Whoa.
Christ.
But check our YouTube tomorrow, or check like the podcast feed tomorrow for our Game of the Year, where we will unveil, deliberate, discuss, and determine the best game objectively of 2023. We will see you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.